Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, today I am joined by Alyssa, who is going to share about her trip to Banff and Vancouver, Canada. Welcome, Alyssa. Thank you so much for being here.
How are you?
Good. It's a little gloomy here in Nashville, but other than that, I'm great.
It was crazy last night.
Yes, it was crazy. Lots of lightning. Well, I am excited for our chat today because my husband and I have looked into this exact trip, but just haven't made it happen yet. Before we jump in, for those who don't know, Banff, that's Banff, is a picturesque mountain town in Alberta, Canada, which is pretty far west in Canada, almost directly above Washington and Montana. It sits within the Rocky Mountains and is most famous for gorgeous teal Lake Louise, which is breathtaking and very Instagrammable. A lot of you have probably seen someone on Instagram post a photo from Lake Louise in like a little canoe. And then there are a lot of other lakes in the area that are not quite as famous, but just as beautiful. After their stay in Banff, Alyssa took the Rocky Mountaineer, which is a luxury train we're going to talk all about, with almost entirely glass ceilings so you can see the gorgeous Rocky Mountains passing outside you. They took that from Banff to Vancouver. I first found out about this train from an Instagram reel a while back, and I was so amazed. I saved it, and I've been following them ever since, and it's like definitely a bucket list activity for me. So we're going to talk about it all. Banff, Lake Louise, the Rocky Mountaineer, Vancouver. But first, Alyssa, let's start with a rapid fire get to know you. Tell everyone where you live, about your family, and what you do.
Okay, my name is Alyssa. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I have 2 kids, a husband, and we moved here after college. We met at Clemson in South Carolina. I'm a mom, obviously. I am a nurse, and I say an accidental influencer. We started sharing our DIY projects during the COVID times, and things kind of blew up, and I just kind of ran with it. So I do have a highlight on my page saved for you guys to reference back to all the information with all those beautiful pictures, because this was a bucket list trip for us as well.
Yeah, so Alyssa and I have connected through Instagram as well because we're both like content creators in the Nashville area. So we will link to her Instagram page in the show notes so you can find this beautiful highlight reel. Her Instagram name is Happily Ever Nashville, and she has a Banff highlight that has tons of amazing videos. So you visited Banff in September 2023, and who went on the trip?
It was just my husband and I. This was a redo 10-year anniversary trip. We had ours canceled during COVID, and then life continued to happen. So this was a couple years in the making.
Okay, great. And how long total was your trip?
We stayed a total of 8 days.
Okay, that's a great getaway trip.
Yes, it was amazing.
Okay, and then how'd you get there?
We flew, so I didn't realize how easy, especially from the Nashville area, it was to get there. We took a direct flight straight up to Calgary. So direct flight from Nashville to Calgary. And then, like we'll talk about, we took the train from Banff to Vancouver. We ended up flying out of Vancouver back to Nashville, which was also a super easy direct flight. So we're actually excited we didn't spend as much time as we wanted to in Vancouver. We basically were just there, ate dinner, and flew out. But we're excited that how easy it was to get there, to fly back there someday from Nashville and actually see Vancouver.
That's good to know that there's a direct flight.
Yeah.
What airline was it? Do you remember?
It was, okay, I kind of forgot what we did with the airlines, but it was their version of like Southwest. I think.
Like a Canadian airline.
Yes, it was a Canadian airline. It was their version of Southwest, so very reasonably priced and a super easy direct flight.
Okay, so you get to Calgary, and then how far is it from the Calgary airport up to Banff? Like, do you have to get a car service? Do you rent a car? How do you get to the hotel?
You could do either. We decided to rent a car. It was an easy hour and a half drive. It's beautiful. I mean, I don't think we even talked. We were just so enthralled with the Rocky Mountains. It's very picturesque. So it is, I would say, a very easy drive up there.
Nice. Okay, and so you pull up to the first hotel, which, just for like reference point sake, there's like the town of Banff, and then y'all were going a little bit farther out, closer to Lake Louise, which is more like remote maybe?
Yes. So I will definitely share the difference. We stayed in both the Fairmonts. If you're familiar, it's a very high-end hotel. This, like I said, this was a 10-year anniversary trip. No expense was spared. We had saved up extra for 3 years. So we decided to stay in both the Fairmont properties. We first started out at Lake Louise. There's not going to be enough words to describe this trip. It was insane. If you have ever seen a picture of it online, just to Google or on Instagram or wherever, it's even better in person. It's crazy. So we pulled up to the Lake Louise property. That's where we stayed for 3 nights. We got a lake view room there. I just checked the prices, and Canada is much more affordable to travel from the US. Your dollar goes much farther there. So it looked like right now the rates were going. I know you wanted to talk about rates a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I just saw the room we stayed in was $600 a night, Canadian dollars. So that would be, I think, 5 something US dollars.
That is like as much as any nice hotel.
Nashville.
And I saw your view in your highlights. Like, she's got a slide of their view, and it is like, it looks fake. It looks like a painting. It doesn't even look real.
I don't have any filters on any of those. It's wild. I look back and I think it's even more beautiful in person. But yes, we got a lake view room there. The little disclaimer I wanted to share about that hotel right now, and it does say it on their website. When we were there, they were starting renovations. So the difference besides the location of both these Fairmont hotels, which I 100% recommend the Lake Louise property over the one in downtown Banff if you're going to spend the money on one of the Fairmont properties. But they're going through renovation, so you'll want to contact the hotel if you're going in the next year or two to see about what their renovations, how that's going, because that definitely would affect your stay. There was a crane to the right. It didn't affect any of our lake view. But there definitely was some construction noise while we were there. But like I said, it didn't bother us. But I could see as that continues on, it might be an issue. So you'll want to check with the hotel.
Okay, great. That's a great tip. And so, as I've seen in your highlights, Lake Louise is literally right there. Like, you don't have to hike to it. It's just like there.
It's literally there.
Easy. Like, do you just kind of trot down there and walk around it?
Yes, we got down there and just headed straight out to the lake, put our bags down, headed straight out to the lake. And I do want to say the money is worth it because included in when you stay there, so it's a destination for other tourists, which means they will come in to just see this hotel, just to see this lake. And because you stay on property, you get access to your own restaurants that the tourists can't, because it does get busy. Even us staying in this off season, which it was the perfect time to stay there in September. The crowds from the summer had died down, but it was still warm. Gosh, we got there and we had you'll see I'm in a t-shirt and short and shorts. So it was 70 degrees when we got there. It was beautiful. But because you stay on the property, you get access to restaurants that the tourists can't get to. So it's not as crowded. Guided hikes. We took a hike up, which there are about 4 or 5 hikes that you just walk right out of the hotel and right up the side. And we can go through those in a little bit. And then also, what was the other one I wanted to mention about? Oh, and then also tours to some of the other lakes. So Lake Morraine is another very popular lake there, which parking is a big issue. And we got a shuttle straight from our hotel straight to Lake Morraine. So
awesome.
It's definitely a lot of perks to staying at that specific Fairmont.
Okay, one of my big questions is, how do you get on those cute little boats? Because everyone has the picture. Is that included, or do you have to rent them? And how do you do it?
Okay, that is right off the property. That's another thing. So the people coming in that aren't staying at the property, they had a huge line. We came down from one of our hikes and we thought, we got a little bit more gas left in us. We'll jump in. And we saw this huge line and we thought, we've got to get on this lake. We got to get on there. And then all of a sudden we come up to the line, and to the left was, are you staying, if you're staying on the property, the line was like 2 people long because you got access to yourself. So we just basically passed all the other tourists because we were staying on property and got right on the lake. It was probably about $45 for an hour. I thought that was so reasonable. It was so beautiful. It's literally insane. Your mind cannot wrap your brain around the color of the water. It's so peaceful. I'm a mountain girl, and it was like I'm mentally still there.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of my bucket lists to get on that lake. And it's so good to know that if you splurge and stay at the hotel, you get almost like your own little fast pass to get on the lake. Like, I love all those perks that come with it.
Yes. And like I said, the guided hikes were really great. We took right off the property. I will say, if people are listening, I saw all age groups represented there during our trip. But the hikes were pretty avid hikers, and I would say they were moderate plus hikes. There's the little, if you've ever done any research, there's the little beehive, the big beehive, and the tea house hikes. But all of those, the people at the resort or at the hotel can kind of give you more information on those and what would be best for your group or whoever you're traveling with. Okay. But just walking around the lake on a flat path, there's a huge, I mean, I think it's maybe a whole mile, just flat, beautiful. You could just do that. So whoever you're traveling with, you can definitely tailor your hikes to that.
Okay, awesome. And then at the hotel, so since you're up here, is most of your food situation have to be at the hotel? There aren't like other little restaurants around?
Yes, you're correct.
So how was the food at the hotel?
Amazing.
Okay.
Yes. They were, each morning we went down to the buffet, but there's a picture on my highlight there. The buffet is not like you're going to, some podunk place here in Nashville, but it was so good. They encourage you to like take it with you. I would just walk out. Gosh, sunrise on the lake was so beautiful. We would just take our coffee. We would just walk out onto the lake. It's insane. The lake looks different every time of day. But it was so beautiful. So yes, the food was delicious. There's also a very famous little eatery there with this huge arched picturesque window that I know, if you know anything about the area, you've seen. It's beautiful. And that actually you can't eat there unless you are staying on property as well. So, but it was not crowded. We easily got reservations when we wanted them. They worked with you if you were staying on property. So it was great.
And was the breakfast buffet included in your price? Was that like a freebie, or you had to pay each time you went?
You had to pay each time you went. There were some options when you booked your hotel to have things included, but we also just weren't sure. And we never usually do those included breakfasts or anything when we stay anywhere in general. But they do have some packages that do include breakfast options.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and it seems like in the area there are so many lakes. And I talked to one other person one time about this trip, and they were like, "You won't believe how many other lakes there are that people, they're not as famous, but you can get to." So I saw in your highlights you've visited like Mirror Lake, Emerald Lake, Peyto. I don't know how to say that one. So tell us about some of the other memorable lakes and kind of how you got there. Was that the shuttle service, and how did that all work?
Yeah, so the first day the first 2 days we were on the property. We did the hikes right off of Lake Louise. And then because we had the car and we had heard, even just driving north, you also hear an area called Jasper, which is popular for people to stay at. That's farther north. There's also this ice parkway. We didn't get quite that far, just not having enough time. But so we took the car, and within a 40-minute radius of the Lake Louise, I wrote them down. We saw we actually stumbled on some of them. Some of them we knew already, but we stumbled on these falls, which were incredible. You could basically walk straight up into these falls: Emerald Lake, Bow Lake, and Peyto Lake. So those were the 4 that we visited within that 45-minute radius of the Lake Louise property. In our car, you do not get cell phone service out there, which was great. You weren't super secluded, but it was kind of nice to be off the grid and just seeing these beautiful places. There were some options I did want to note to stay on Emerald Lake. They had a small, cute little boutique hotel. We actually had coffee there in the lobby. And then also on Peyto Lake, no, not Peyto Lake, Lake Morraine, you can also stay there. They have bungalows. So those would be the other 2 options to stay on a lake in that area, would be Emerald Lake and Lake Morraine.
Lake Morraine looked incredible, but then I saw that you had posted that there's like kind of a lot of bears there, maybe?
Yeah, so there's the real threat. I mean, you're in bear country. There's the very real threat. You have to legally, actually, every time you're hiking, you need to travel with bear spray, which you cannot travel with on an airplane. So That was one of the things. But our hotel, you could rent bear spray through the hotel, or you can buy it. I did see people walking around the hotel saying, "Hey, we're about to leave. We can't take it with us. Does anybody need bear spray?" But we did not see any bears on any of our hikes. I just want to say that. I'm glad we saw them on our train ride, but there is a very real threat of bears there. So it was nice to be on a guided hike. The one time we did a very long hike. But they'll give you lots of tips but we saw lots of people on all of our hikes. I never felt secluded except at I did put in my highlight on Bow Lake, was it? It felt a little secluded, and we almost started walking towards a waterfall that said 2 miles up that way. And then I just felt like a bear in the area. I don't know. So we reverted back, but yes, it is bear country and grizzly bear country. So
you sensed a bear's presence. You were like, not today.
Yeah, it felt a little off. But
I saw that you had like a best day hikes in Banff, like book. Did you get that on Amazon and like carry it around with you just to kind of, especially if you had no cell service, did it help you like navigate where you were going?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that was great. Yep.
We'll link that book in the show notes as well.
Yeah. And all of those hikes that we did during that one day of just driving that 45-minute radius, I would say all easy hikes, flat. Basically, you're just walking up to seeing these lakes, walking, just a little trail to see the waterfall. So those were all super easy hikes.
Okay. Before we move into the downtown Banff Hotel, is there anything else about the Lake Louise Fairmont that you want to share about? I did love that every single post you're like, I'm not putting filters on these photos. This is just what it looks like.
It was incredible. It was incredible. I have nothing negative to say. Actually, now that we're going to talk about the other property, the Banff, the Lake Louise property does need some renovations. Our hotel room was small. That doesn't bother us and kind of a little bit older, needed renovation. I know why they're doing renovations to that hotel, but everything downstairs besides the rooms were updated. It was just the rooms need to be updated and they were smaller. But man, that view, it doesn't even matter what you're waking up to, as long as you see that view. So the other Banff property was much more updated, but that's kind of the only thing I would recommend 100% staying on the Lake Louise property, 100%.
Yes, this is definitely on my bucket list. And after talking to you, I'm sure I'm going to be doing more research soon.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
Okay, amazing. So then you move on to Banff downtown. So tell us about just like what the town is kind of like.
Yeah, have you ever been to a ski town out west here in the United States? It's what it looks like. It's super picturesque. There's mountains all around you. There's a beautiful golf course. There's a downtown area with just lots of like dive bars and good eateries, and it's chill. So that was really great. 2 places I did note that we ate in downtown Banff were the Bluebird and Brazen for dinner, and they were delicious. We did make reservations for those.
Okay, nice. And so tell us about this hotel, like the lobby. How is it? What are the different feels and vibes from the Lake Louise property?
So this one was so interesting. It was basically looks like a castle. Inside looks like a castle. The rooms do not look like a castle. They're actually beautiful. The rooms are updated. They're larger. So that was a difference between the other properties. You get views, not of a lake, but of beautiful mountain, the Rockies kind of all around you. It does have more of it does. It's a convention center too. So it had a little bit of a convention center vibe in the lobby. So that was a difference. And also we were surprised to find out that it is not it's not quite downtown Banff. So in order for us from the hotel to get to the downtown strip area where all the food was and shopping, we had to actually take the city bus, which I'm not above a city bus, but I was definitely surprised by that. So the location was different than I anticipated. And that was one of the—
It did look like from your pictures that it was almost like up on a hill. Like it looked gorgeous, like kind of overlooking everything, but not necessarily down in the town.
Right. And at the time we gave up our rental car. So we either had to walk or take that city bus when we stayed there for 2 nights.
Okay. I saw that you put that it kind of looks like a castle. Like it's just like, it did look large, like conference ready, but castle-ish and very cool looking.
Yeah, it's historic in a way. I don't remember how it's historic in a way, but it was very interesting. We didn't eat dinner there, but they have this really cool, which you might have also seen Instagram, this like behind this big bookcase speakeasy kind of bar, a beautiful sitting area bar situation. You could have, like small bites. So that was really cool. Out onto a beautiful patio, which we saw the northern lights when we were there, which we did not think. Usually you cannot see them. We just lucked out. That was pure luck. We walked into the hotel one night coming back from dinner, and we thought, let's just have one more drink. And we walked into the bar area, which was usually hustling, bustling, and nobody was in there. They were all running outside, the workers, and it just so happened that they saw the northern lights, which they track. The people track up there, so they can kind of like the weather. They track the northern lights. So it was absolutely incredible. I can't believe we saw those.
Oh my gosh, that is so special. So after seeing them and being amazed and talking to people around there, is it like from time to time you might catch them, but it's just much more rare?
It's more rare there because it's obviously I'm in a town. Out of all the places to see the northern lights, we did not think we would see them in the downtown Banff area. Like I said, the wind, and it's just kind of how the wind goes, and they come and go, and it's very interesting. But yes, I didn't think we would see them at all during the trip. That was just pure luck. But definitely talk to some of the locals or the people in the hotel and ask what the tracker is looking like, and if at all possible, where people in whatever area you're staying in have seen them. So that might be helpful.
Okay. So if you went back to the town of Banff, I know that up at Lake Louise, y'all absolutely love that hotel. If you went back to the town of Banff, would you stay again at the Fairmont Banff, or would you maybe choose something different?
No, we would not. We would not spend the money on that particular Fairmont hotel. As we were walking around the town, they have cute little boutique hotels, little bed and breakfast we saw, and we kind of looked up what the price would be. And the Fairmont, I believe the Fairmont Banff Springs was more expensive than the Lake Louise property, so that also surprised us in a way. So no, we would have spent less money to stay closer into the little town.
Okay, great to know. And then I saw that you did what looked like a really cool excursion, the Johnston Canyon Trail. So how did you get to that?
Let me think how we got to.
This one was like, it was like hiking through canyons and like little bridges along the edge, waterfalls, caves. It looked like kind of a whole thing.
I guess we took a service from the hotel, I believe, or got a car service there. It wasn't far. It was probably about 20 or 30 minutes. But I did write down here, the early bird gets the worm. And on a lot of these hikes, honestly, the earlier you go, the better. It brings a lot of tourists in. And like I said, they told us that we came such a great time. The weather was great. The summer crowds had died down. And that was kind of surprising to me because some of the areas did feel crowded. But they told me in the summertime that it can be shoulder to shoulder around the lakes, which was crazy. So I never...
Instagram versus reality photos where it's like you get the pic and then you see.
Yes. I even have a couple of my own, but they said, oh my gosh, you came at the perfect time. The weathers are gnarly there. So the time to visit that things are actually open is only about 4 months. So as we were coming home and still seeing pictures and following things up there, they actually got hit with snow about a week after we left. So I would say early September, end of August, early September would definitely be the time to go.
Okay. And so then you went on this Johnston Canyon Trail. That looks super fun, by the way, just like hiking through all those caves and seeing, I feel like you saw waterfalls every day.
Yeah. Beautiful. Johnston Canyon was another one of those things people told us we couldn't miss while we were there. And that was, I would say, a moderate hike. It was all paved, but some of it was, had a lot of elevation to it. And you could do as little or as much as you wanted along that trail. And they also had a food stop and you could have coffee, but that was, definitely beautiful.
Okay. Before we move on to the Rocky Mountaineer, is there anything else about downtown Banff or the little town or the shopping or anything that you want to share?
No, the downtown Banff is so cute. We love exploring little towns and cities. We've actually, like I said, it's a ski town, and we saw where the ski resorts were, which we have talked about bringing our family back to ski up there. So I just thought it was just really cute. But don't spend the money on the Fairmont Banff. Stay somewhere else in that downtown area.
Okay. Now on to the Rocky Mountaineer, which is, like I said, something that I've been following on Instagram on my own for a while. Y'all have to look it up if you haven't seen videos from it before. It just looks so magical, like an adult Polar Express, where it's just like magic, perfection, these domed glass ceiling walls. So I looked it up and I saw that there's multiple different routes you can do. So you can do some in the US, some up in Canada, kind of all different routes, but y'all did Banff to Vancouver, and it's like a 2-day trip?
Yes.
Okay.
So I also saw this train trip on Instagram and flagged it for years. We basically built our entire trip around doing this train. So we booked the train and then we worked backward to sightseeing around the area. The Rocky Mountaineer, it is a train ride. It's 2 days. You do spend the night halfway through the trip, not on the train, but they put you up in a hotel. So there's a town which is basically kind of built around their trains and stuff like that. And so you'll get off, you'll spend the night, and you get back on. But it is 5-star. The two different, there's gold leaf and silver leaf. When you do look that up, you got to splurge. If you're going to do this, you got to go with the gold leaf service, which gets you the train car with the panoramic views, with the windows, the whole thing's encased in windows. The views are absolutely incredible. You get food, you have wine pairings, and all that is included. So everything is included in your price as far as the food, the drinks, the hotel stay. That's all included.
And between the silver and the gold, I looked it up pretty quickly. Obviously, there's a price difference. The silver seats looked like coach airline seats to me with like a little tray table, and it looked like you still got a little food and wine. It would be a budget way to do it if you just wanted to take a train from point A to point B. But the gold leaf, the seats looked much more luxurious, kind of like leather and comfortable, more like flying first class.
Yeah.
And the food and the wine pairings and the service just looked absolutely amazing. So I was like, yeah, if you're going to be all the way up there and take that trip, you might as well budget for the gold leaf if you can.
100%. You also, with the gold leaf, you have access to a train car that lets you get outside and see the views, which was not in the silver leaf. And just seeing the train, seeing the difference. Yes, you explained it perfectly well. Like our seats, we had heated seats, they reclined. We had these tray tables that came up. You can even spin the chairs. It was crazy. And then we had access to a train car. We could walk outside and see the views that the other people did not. We also, which I thought was so cool, we had in the Gold Leaf service, you had your lunches in a separate train car. So you like walked down underneath where you were sitting and had lunch in almost like a little restaurant. They paired you with other people. So I found it really fun to talk with other people. We actually met another guy that was doing, he was a YouTube content creator, and he was doing a whole YouTube thing about our trip. He was sitting behind us. So it was so interesting to like mingle with everybody. It was really cool.
What type of food did you eat? Like, what were some of the dishes?
Oh my gosh, they were so good. I think it was like upscale American food. But they were really great with all of I don't eat dairy. And so if you tell them you have any kind of allergies or dairy or food intolerances, they were great about substituting anything and everything they brought. I only put that in my notes when we were getting on board, and they knew specifically where I was sitting and what I ate and what I didn't eat. So that was great.
Okay. And I was doing some research on it as well, just to see kind of like if this is something you would ever bring kids on. And after looking at the website for a while and reading some FAQs, I kind of got the sense that it's no, not really for kids. You're kind of just sitting, relaxing, taking in the views, eating and drinking, and there's not really Wi-Fi that works. So for kids, it could be quite boring after a while.
Yeah, I actually asked that question on board because I didn't see there's tons and tons of train cars as you're getting on, and yours is small and you'll get to know the people on your train car and your guides. But I asked them if they had kids, and they said very rarely. I also wouldn't spend the money to stick my kid on there to just complain for 2 days straight. So it was the most relaxing thing I've ever done. It was perfect. And I honestly think it was the perfect ending to our trip. I have talked to people like along the way that started there and then they did their traveling. I just found we needed to relax. We're kind of go people when we travel. We wanted to fit as much as we could. So I'm glad we did this part of the trip on the back end.
Perfect. And so when I was watching some of the videos of the train, I noticed there was some like peaceful music sometimes. Obviously, the views are incredible. And then do they ever come over the speaker system and kind of share where you are and what you're seeing and kind of give educational stuff?
Yes, they do that the whole time, but it is not annoying. They have fun little snippets of information. They tell you where you are. I didn't realize the landscape of Canada was so crazy different on this 2 day train ride. We started in the Rocky Mountains. We got to almost this like desert landscape where we saw lots of wildlife, bears, bald eagles, wild goat, I don't know, sheep, wild, whatever, horned sheep. And then we moved into this tropical part, which is like a tropical forest. It was wild. And then we obviously ended in Vancouver, which is a town on the water. So that was so cool. And yes, they told you kind of all about the different areas. There was picturesque stop. They would stop the train so you could take pictures of certain, very popular spots. But it's kind of the only way to see that backcountry of Canada in those parts is this train ride. So it was unbelievable as well.
Okay, we'll definitely link to the Rocky Mountaineer Instagram account in the show notes if you want an easy click over to it, because it is just like an amazing account to follow and definitely very aspirational. So
Mm.
the train finishes in Vancouver, and so what do you do in Vancouver? Do you spend the night there? Are you just there for the day? How's the end of your trip?
Yeah, so the one thing I wanted to mention about this train ride was they can't guarantee what time you get into your stops. So we were supposed to arrive in Vancouver about 4 or 5 o'clock, and we did not get into Vancouver till about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. That's because the Rocky Mountaineer shares the train line with the main Canadian train line, but we do not have the right of way. So there were times where we had to stop and wait for other trains, that were carrying cargo and things like that to move about. So we did not have any time in Vancouver. We went out to dinner, we walked down by the water, what we could see in the dark, and then we flew out the next morning. That was also the case the night that we stopped halfway through. We got in late. We basically just went to our hotel and then spent the night and got back on the train, but that wasn't anything. That little town wasn't anything to write home about. But that would probably be just kind of the negative thing. There is some waiting around, but usually you're in a very picturesque place. It doesn't matter. And they keep bringing you food and wine. So you kind of forget you're waiting. They're really great about that. But yes, we did not really have any time to explore Vancouver.
Where did you stay that last night?
Just a hotel in downtown. Our travel agent just put us up in one of the hotels, which we just spent entirely too much money on just a place to sleep. We probably should have just gone straight to a hotel near the airport and spent the night there. But
Okay, and then you had an easy flight home, just direct Vancouver to Nashville?
yes, which the flight attendant told us is her favorite flight because everyone's happy to come to Canada and everyone's on the party mode to come to Nashville. And I could totally tell. We were on, gosh, sitting next to us, a pair was coming to Nashville for their honeymoon. There's a bunch of bachelorette parties. So anyway, yes, it was a super easy flight back to Nashville.
Yeah, it is funny taking flights back to Nashville when we're coming home and it's like all these people are in like bachelorette matching t-shirts and you're like, woo.
I know. I was like, I'm just trying to get home. Yeah, people say, "Oh, where are you going? What are you going to do in Nashville?" I was like, "We're going home."
Yeah. All right. I end every episode with, if someone out there is considering this trip, what is it about Banff that would make you say, just book it?
Oh my gosh, just look at the pictures. Just Google one picture. It is better in person than it looks online. It's beautiful. Like I said, we're mountain people. We love adventure and to hike, but you can do the trip however you want to do the trip if you're more chill. But it is so picturesque. It was so nice to just be away and be in this beautiful area. I would do it a million times over. We can't wait to go back again someday. Well, obviously, we'll do it in a different way. You want to bring the kids, but it's so beautiful. You have to do it. Put it on your bucket list. Move it to the top. I also wanted to say talking about all the age ranges of people, we saw a ton of older people. And I can tell it's a bucket list thing. But don't wait till, because I saw people pushing walkers and wheelchairs up the hikes and we were high-fiving and like, yes, go them. But don't wait on this trip, please. It's so beautiful. Do it yourself with your significant other or with your family. It's amazing.
That is such great advice. And I am moving it to the top of my bucket list Thank you so much for sharing all about it. And thank you for being here today, Alyssa.
Good to talk and meet you.
Yes, you too. That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.